Money is a collective hallucination. We all just collectively agreed that these green pieces of paper, or the glowing pixels on Dave's screen, are worth a certain amount of sandwiches. It works perfectly, right up until the moment everyone remembers that we're just making it all up. Meet Dave. Dave is currently looking at a red day in his portfolio and wondering why the global economy is more fragile than his last relationship. Dave thinks the market is a rational, all-knowing machine. Sarah, on the other hand, knows the truth. The market is actually a group of highly panicked monkeys in expensive suits who occasionally set the world on fire because they saw a shiny rock. To understand why Dave is currently crying into his avocado toast, we have to look back at the moment's history went off the rails. Today, we're distilling the most bizarre, logical, and outright fraudulent triggers of financial crises throughout history. Stick around, because we're going from ancient Rome to 2008 to find out why the world keeps going bankrupt over things like secret companies and horse flu. We like to think that quantitative easing and central bank bailouts are modern inventions from guys at the Federal Reserve. They aren't. In 33 AD, the Roman Empire suffered a liquidity crisis that looks suspiciously like 2008, and it was all triggered by a sudden regulatory crackdown. Emperor Tiberius decided to strictly enforce an obsolete law requiring Roman senators to invest 2/3 of their wealth in Italian land. Dave, being an impulsive Roman senator in this scenario, immediately calls in all his loans and sells off his foreign assets to buy local dirt. When every wealthy senator does this simultaneously, it causes an immediate asset bubble, a total credit freeze, and a devastating liquidity shortage. To stop the empire from turning into a giant, bankrupt gladiator pit, Tiberius had to create the world's first central bank bailout. He distributed 100 million sesterces to local banks to issue 3-year, 0% interest loans to desperate citizens. The lesson: even 2,000 years ago, the solution to too much debt was apparently here is more debt, but it's free. Long before modern hyperinflation, the Holy Roman Empire suffered a crisis caused by literal coin clipping. It was called the Kipper and Wipper crisis. To fund the 30 Years' War, local rulers realized they could secretly debase their own currency. They would melt down heavy silver coins, mix them with cheap copper, and restamp them with the same face value. The term Kipper and Wipper refers to the scales used by money changers to tip and cheat the public. Rulers would use these fake, debased coins to buy real goods in neighboring regions before anyone noticed the money was worthless. This caused a cascading hyperinflation crisis across Europe so severe that money became literal trash, and children played with stacks of coins like they were Lego blocks. If you think your local inflation is bad, at least you aren't paying for a loaf of bread with a bucket of copper-plated lies. Sometimes a financial crisis doesn't just hurt a country, it deletes it. In the late 1690s, Scotland attempted the Darien scheme, a plan to build a trading colony in Panama. The project was so heavily backed by the public that it drew in an estimated 20% to 25% of all the liquid capital circulating in Scotland. Scotland was left so financially ruined and defenseless that they were forced to sign the Acts of Union in 1707, merging with England in exchange for a financial bailout to pay off the Darien debts. That is the ultimate margin call. This is where we meet the FOMO that still plagues Dave today. In 1720, the South Sea Company was the hottest thing on the London Stock Exchange. Even Sir Isaac Newton, one of the smartest humans to ever live, fell for it. Newton initially made a 100% profit and sold his shares like a rational investor. But as the bubble kept inflating, he watched his less intelligent friends become staggeringly wealthy. Driven by pure FOMO, Newton jumped back in at the absolute peak with vastly more capital and lost his entire life savings. He famously said he could calculate the motions of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. At the height of this mania, people were so blind with greed that they handed over cash to ghost startups with zero business models. In 1822, a Scottish soldier named Gregor MacGregor pulled off the most impressive lie in financial history. He sold government bonds for a country that didn't exist. He claimed he was the prince of a Central American nation called Poyais. He drew maps, created fake currency, and successfully issued Poyais government bonds on the London Stock Exchange, raising millions in today's money from eager investors. He even sent ships of settlers to this land. When the settlers arrived, they found a disease-ridden jungle with nothing on it. The bonds instantly crashed to zero, sparking a wider market panic. This is the ultimate reminder to Dave. Always check the map before you buy the bond. While economists usually blame railroad speculation for the panic of 1873, the immediate catalyst was actually a biological logistics failure, the Great Epizootic of 1872. A highly contagious strain of horse influenza incapacitated 99% of the horses in North America. In 1872, horses were the engines of the local supply chain. With no horses to move goods from factories to train stations, the entire U.S. distribution network ground to a halt. Supply chains broke, cash flows dried up, and heavily leveraged railroads were pushed over the financial edge. This shows that the just-in-time delivery Dave relies on today isn't a new vulnerability. Branding matters. In 1930, a commercial bank called the Bank of United States collapsed. Despite its official sounding name, it was a completely private, normal bank catering primarily to Jewish immigrants in New York. However, because of the name, hundreds of thousands of people genuinely believed it was the official central bank of the U.S. government. Its failure triggered a nationwide psychological panic. People thought the United States government itself had gone bankrupt, leading to catastrophic systemic bank runs that deepened the Great Depression. Panic isn't about facts. It's about what people think the facts are. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, South Korea was on the verge of collapse and forced into a humiliating IMF bailout. The citizens responded by voluntarily giving their personal wealth to the state. Millions of people queued for hours to donate gold wedding rings, family heirlooms, and baby bracelets to help pay off the national debt. Over 3.5 million people collected 226 tons of gold worth over $2 billion. This allowed South Korea to pay off its IMF loan 3 years early. This is the anti-panic, where collective action solves a liquidity crisis that greed created. Finally, we come to the modern era of financial engineering. In 2008, a hedge fund named Magnetar Capital paid Wall Street banks to create the most toxic, high-risk subprime mortgage deals possible. To make the banks do it, Magnetar bought the riskiest equity portion of the deal. But they had a secret. They bought massive amounts of fire insurance credit default swaps against the rest of the deal. They essentially paid to build a highly flammable house, bought massive insurance on it, and waited for it to burn down. They netted billions while accelerating the systemic collapse of Wall Street. It was a legal, highly sophisticated form of financial arson. So what did we learn? Whether it's a 0% loan in Rome or a toxic mortgage in 2008, every crisis has the same core ingredients: leverage, a too-good-to-be-true promise, and a sudden realization that the hallucination is over. Dave, the market isn't a monster you can predict. It's a mirror of our own collective greed and fear. If you want to survive the next one, follow Sarah's lead. Stay disciplined, keep a margin of safety, and never buy bonds from a country you can't find on a map. Subscribe if you want to feel slightly less bad about the next inevitable global collapse.